So this is our traditional compost heap, I suppose, at Sissinghurst. It's this idea of just gathering all of our herbaceous material, all of our lawn clippings through the spring and early summer, and just gathering them all up into this big pile. Usually we might start 2 or 3 piles, and then by the end of the season they're big enough then to stop adding anything more to them. We cap them over with just a layer of sort of straw, and then we leave them probably for about a year, until just through that process of time they've rotted down into something that is, you know, pretty good, reasonable organic matter to use as a compost or a mulch. The problem with this method, however, what we found is it's, I suppose, 2 issues for us. It's cold composting, so we don't turn it, and so all the corners don't get very hot, and so all the weed seeds are still actually in there when we're finished. And the other disadvantage is in that sort of time that it takes. And so we wanted to look at how we could improve this system and actually use all of our material to make as much compost as possible to put back into the garden. So then we started to look at different options, and Paul, one of our colleagues here, started to look at compost cakes, and then moved on to this system called Bokashi, which I'm hoping he'll explain to you shortly.
So this is our Bokashi windrow that we've got here. It's a relatively new way of composting here at Sissinghurst. We did it actually as a byproduct of leftovers for winter. So the compost cakes that we did at first needed to get up to high temperatures. We found that when we got to winter, it was very difficult to keep up those temperatures, and we had a lot of waste left over. With the waste, we looked into the Bokashi method, just as an idea of getting rid of this waste. We did these windrows. We used an EMA solution onto it, which is effective microorganisms, and we covered it up and left it. We left it for 9 months because we didn't really know what to do with it. But then when we opened up, we actually had an incredibly good product. So we were quite surprised. And since then, that's become our new way of composting at the moment. Another good thing about Bokashi is that it's a completely sealed unit. With normal composting, you're releasing a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere because you're turning it all the time and because it's open to the atmosphere. With Bokashi, it's closed, it's a sealed unit, so it's keeping all those gases inside of it. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to create a product, but here at Sissinghurst, we leave it for that little bit longer because we want a good fine product that we can use on the garden. Compared to what we used to use with the cold composting method a few years ago, this product is actually a usable product that we can use in the garden. It kills the pathogens, it kills the weed seed, and we are confident enough to use it in the garden now, which is brilliant. This method as well has speeded up our process of composting. Before, we would have to, with the compost cakes, keep them up to temperature for 6 to 8 weeks, and that involves regular turning, three or four times throughout the process. And you know, that's a lot of time out of our time, volunteers' time, and we're reliant heavily on the weather. With this method, we just lay everything all together. Like with normal composting, you would layer it in sections. Whereas here, you just put it all on the floor, about a foot into a windrow, and then you use the EMA solution and just gently sprinkle it all over the top of it when it's watered down. And then you put your next layer on and sprinkle that over. The good thing about it as well is that you can start at one end and you can build up and then cover it, and you can keep coming back to it as long as you're putting those effective microorganisms on top of it, and then you can keep coming back to it, adding to it, and then once you get to the end, that sealed unit, you'll probably be at a stage where you can open the other end and use that product. As well, you can do this at home on a smaller scale. You can buy the EM1 solution online, and you buy the molasses to go with it, and you mix those together and you heat them up, and after a week you get a product that you can use on your Bokashi heap. You can do it on a smaller scale at home. You don't have to have it this big in this windrow. It can be any size, 1 metre by 1 metre, or you can actually buy the buckets which you put your food waste in and have them on your counter. That's the beauty of it, that you can do it at any size. I'll just show you inside it. I'll open it up and we can have a look at the product. So this has been going for about 1.5 to 2 months. As you can see, it's quite a nice product already. You can squeeze it together and it stays, and then you can clump it around and it releases. It's still a bit fibrous, so we'll leave it for a little bit longer, and then we will probably sieve it to use on the garden, just because we do want that finer product. But you can see it's got a lot of action going on here, wood lice, worms. Any of the fibrous material that's left over once you've sieved your product, you can put it back into another process to break down again. The good thing about the plastic as well, that you can reuse it over and over again. And if you're offended by the plastic, you can always cover it in some hessian. Here at Sissinghurst, we do have to think about the aesthetics. We have the tower that we need to think about. That's why it's hidden behind this hedge here in a long line.